Hey, welcome back to Kiwi Classics and Customs. Well, back on Project Swiss Cheese today, and the mission for today is to do a jigsaw puzzle. Now, the observant and astute amongst you will notice that there is no engine bay on this car. No inner fenders, no core support, no nothing. What we do have is a pile of pieces, 8 pieces of this jigsaw puzzle, which have to go together and all have to end up in the right place. You know, with the measurements correct, so we don't have a fender that's up or a fender that's down or a front, front that's lopsided. So yeah, a little bit of measuring to do. So just got to get started. We got to tape measure. We got some clamps. We got the pieces. Let's go. So one of the things we're going to do is, we're going to start with the core support. Now this little puppy is a core support made by Mustangs to Fear, who did all the front suspension and chassis and stuff. Now this is this pops here, and basically we get that in the right place, and then it's like join the dots, for the inner fenders each way. So we got that. Now this is something that they make specially, it has a larger opening in here. So this is a custom thing that MTF do. So let's just pop that there for now. At the front of the core support comes this. Now that's a factory Mustang piece. So, and what that does is this pops over the ends of the chassis rail and slides on like so. But one of the little tricks, am I in shot here? Yeah, I am. One of the little tricks of this is that these chassis rails are made of 2 by 3 inch, so 2 inch by 3 inch steel beams. And the original Mustang is 2 3/4 deep by 2 inches. So this, what I came to realise, I was going to try and put it on, it wouldn't fit because the gap in here was 2 3/4, and it's got to slide over a 3 inch rail. So what I had to do, I'll just come in a little bit closer for you guys. You'll see here we've got this edge here normally comes straight along and carries on. What I had to do was put a little cut down here, put a little 90 and another 90, and open that up so you can now see this steps out here. So this now becomes the 3 inches. We had to push that out of the bottom. Because we want the top. The top is a control point. When they made this chassis, they made the top. They matched the top of their new rails, to the same spot of the top of the factory rails. So I've done that already. This will now slide in there. It's ready to go. So we just need to get that welded in. And once that's in, we've got a little bit of wiggle room here, so I'm going to have to measure that and make sure that it's square. As you can imagine, that's fairly important. This piece drops down in here. So this is kind of finds its own place, and so that's a good place to start this mock-up, because we know this is right, this is controlled. This should be right, no reason to think it won't be. But yeah, we've got a bunch of welding to do to get that in. Yeah, so now that we've modified this front part, we can get to punching some holes, welding this together, and then we'll work our way back to the firewall. Alright, let's get that out of the way quickly and figure out where to punch some holes and make sure this thing's square. So let me just go and get a nice big square just off camera. Ta-da! And Okay. So, here's Steve. Management hours finally arrived into work.
Yeah.
Banker's hours. There you go. We're just setting this up. You're on camera, sunshine.
All right.
Yeah. So we're just making sure that this is square.
You want to clamp it?
Yeah, we've got a clamp up on the firewall there, or the cowl I should say. Okay. Right about, yeah, that's going to do it. Okay, we're going to throw the camera on time lapse and start burning. So, core support's on. That was pretty straightforward stuff. The lower cross member, the 2x3 section that connects the front of the two rails can really only go in the one spot. The core support goes in right behind that, so that kind of dictates the height and the side to side. There's really nowhere else it can go. Now it gets tricky. Now the really jigsaw puzzle part starts, because we've got your rear inner apron, inner fender, which has got to go here. Now that can go anywhere from there to there, which, as you can imagine, that's a dramatic difference when you've got to bolt your fender down onto here. Also, this can go this way. Obviously not that far, but I'm just trying to kind of demonstrate. But eyeball tells me it's going to be about there-ish. But if you're out by half an inch, then suddenly your hood hinges bolt to here, so they got to be in the right place. You've got another little panel that goes here, and then obviously you've got the forward inner fender that goes here. So we've got this height issue, which we've got to make sure is right, because if you wear that on too low, the front fender is going to sit too low. So we've got a height here. We've also got a height in the middle, because this is not a straight line from there to there. It has a gentle curve in it. So we've kind of got to get how it's clocked here. We can get our height here right, but we've got to make sure this is humped up enough. And then last but not least, you've got a measurement from there to there. And as you can see with how flexy this core support is, it's easy to be an inch out. It's controlled a little bit by the base, but you want all these measurements as close as you can possibly get them. Now they did give you quite a lot of tolerance the way these cars bolt together. Factory tolerance were like 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. I was trying to get it a bit closer than that. Just because I feel more confident, you know, carrying on with the rest of the build and getting the fenders on there. That you know, the better you do it now, the more accurate your foundation is, the more accurate your build is at the end. It's not unlike building a house. If your foundation's a 1/4 of an inch off, then your whole house is going to be a 1/4 of an inch off. And it's the same with cars. So we need to get this as close as we possibly can. You know, there are adjustments in all the mounting points, so you do have a bit of wiggle room, but let's not try and be slap happy and then we're at the limit of every adjustable point. We want to be, it'd be nice to have the bolts going in the middle of the adjustment, so we can go a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit forward, a little bit back, in, out, rather than just, you know, doing, hey, looks pretty good, Bob, you know, whoever Bob is. So yeah, let's get this clamped and start making some measurements. That's, yeah, it's about there. I'm going to start with it a little bit higher rather than lower, just because that's my mood today. So that's going to hold that in there. You know, it wants to do that. That's okay. We've got the front one here. It's going to go kind of about there. We've got to get that. There's a nice little hole in the top. Oop, there goes my marker. There's a nice little oval hole here, which is where the bolt goes through. And it's the same up here. And there's a little matching oval hole in the top of the core support. So that's a good spot to get lined up. It's got to go under there. So yeah, let's get that little hole lined up. That's makes life a little easier. So you can see it's doing this. So where we clamp that is going to be obviously critical to the height here. As you're doing that, this height's changing. We've got to get that pretty close. And a good rule of thumb is the gap you've got on the bottom here, from the bottom of this panel to the rail, should be pretty close to parallel. Now, I can't quite see it at this angle, but yeah, it's down a little bit. This is going to take you some time, and it's going to want to try and frustrate you, because sometimes you try and move it up a little bit and yeah, it moves down, which so not sure whether I'm even in shot here, but just to measure there, it's about 3/4 of an inch. It's still a little bit down, but it's pretty close. We're not quite lining up here, so maybe we'll come up just a little bit more, like that. That's pretty close. You are going to need a few clamps for doing this, so have a few clamps at the ready. And as you can see, they don't have to be giant clamps, just enough to stop it moving. So that's reasonably firm. So now, what you can't see off camera here is I've got the complete, you know, it's been a few weeks, and I've been sitting in the corner has been all the pieces we cut off, and that's the cowl. And all the inner fender and front chassis rails, because that's original metal. Yeah, it's rusty, but it's all in the right shape and heights and spaces and stuff like that. It was all original inner fenders and original shock tower. We're not putting the shock tower back in. We're going to have plates that go over here because of this Mustang 2 Mustangs to fear. not stow fair, but Mustang's 2 fair front end. So yeah, I'm just going to transfer some measurements. And see where we're getting to. Okay, so right now, that's looking about 1/4 inch low. So we have got a little bit of wiggle room, that's okay. Now, I know what the measurement front to back here is. We're looking for 44 7/8. So currently we got 44 1/4. So we're well short here this way. So we've got to find a bit of room, a bit of length here. Yep. Now I'm just measuring from the top of the rail to the top of this flange here. We got 18 1/4. Yep, so our height here is right. I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, it's right on 18 1/4. Just going to double check that back measurement. (17 7/8). Actually, no, we're not low at the back here. That's right on the money there, 17 7/8. So what I've done, I lifted that up and pushed it up hard under here, and kind of, you know, you win some, you lose some. This one we won because that appears to be about the right height. What we got to do is find some extra length here before we start burning stuff in, because we're like 1/2 inch light. So, a matter of finding where it is. That's where it is. Okay. It's going to be hard to see. Down here, like this is touching the core support panel here. All up here it's touching. We've got a gap here, about, coincidentally, a 1/2 inch gap. So we're going to need to release that clamp, this clamp, slide it on forward, and get another vice grip on there. So, but yeah, you got to measure. You got to measure and measure and measure, and then when you feel like you've got it right, take some different measurements from slightly different spots, and eventually you'll get to that point where you really feel confident that you've got it nailed. Come off of there. I need to let that one go. Not tight enough. Again, we're battling that. That's gained us 1/4 inch, so we're still a little light, team, but and here goes the compressor. Let me turn that off. That's noisy. And I'm back. Right. Lots of measuring. Ooh, we're getting close now. It's 44 3/4. We're looking for 44 7/8. And obviously this length measurement is fairly important because that's, you know, if it's too far back, you put your fender on and nothing's going to line up here at the back of it. Nothing's going to line up with the front, you know, the front edge of the door. So yeah, that's fairly. This is a critical measurement, you know. And that is still not where I want it to be. I'm still here even if you can't see me. Trust me. Whoa, that's tight. There we go. Right. But I think we've lost a little bit of height in there. Maybe not. Okay. Yeah, we're still an 1/8 of an inch out. It's never easy, I promise you. It's never easy. Right, where is our 1/8 of an inch gone? There we go, 44 7/8. So that's right on the money. This height here we know is correct because there's really no messing with that because of the core support is where it is. So let's just check this one. It's 18 1/4. Now don't take my measurements as being, you know, gospel because there's, you know, where you measure might end up slightly different to where exactly the points I'm measuring to. I'm measuring to this little line here. I'm getting right on 18 inches. And I'll check this other. We're lucky enough to have Casper here with all our original inner fenders, so I'm just doing some quick measurements off her. Just out of camera shot here. That's 18 inches. So, there you go. Happy with that. We've got the correct height here, automatically correct here. We've got the right length over there. Now we've got to make sure we're in and out the right amount. So, that is going to be measuring. What you have to do is relate to a stamped point in here. So we've got a couple of holes in here for where the heater blower motor usually goes through this. So that's a good point. We can measure to this kind of vertical piece of the panel here where the hood hinge goes, to the outside edge of the little blower motor hole, and that is 4 1/8. And when we measure off the donor pieces, which is just here out of shot, you're gonna have to take my word for it. And we got 4 3/8 on the original one, so we're a little bit out there, which is not surprising given that that's just where it happened to land. So we're about 1/4 of an inch away there. Hup. Put that to there. That's 4 3/8. So, what happened to my little silver Sharpie? Not there, not there, it's here. Because it's all still drowning in E-coat here, I'm going to just do a little mark here to make, because it's all got to come apart again. All this measuring, and we've got to come apart again because we've got to grind off this E-coat. Because on the back side of this, there's the flange with all the punched holes, which we've got to do the plug welds in and tie this thing together. So now we've kind of got all our measurements right now, roughly. What I'm going to do now is take it all apart again, clean off all the areas where it's going to be welded. We can put some weld through primer on, same on the back here. This is nice clean metal, but this panel is covered in E-coat, so we need to clean that off. Again, a bit more weld through primer. Over here on this joint here where it's going to be, some weld through primer, and we start burning it in. So I'm going to put the camera on time lapse while I do all this laborious slow stuff and start burning. Alrighty, well, you should be able to hear me now. Okay, so we're back on real speed. Tacked in, I haven't tacked it in up the back edge here, so we can still move in and out a little bit, because what I want to double check, yes, I've measured it here, but I want to get the other side in and get an overall measurement across, because the center line of the row of bolts that goes down here to the center line of the row of bolts that holds the other fender on, obviously that needs to be right, otherwise the fenders will be too far apart and you'll have a big gap down the side of the hood, or they'll be too close and you'll have the hood overlapping the fenders. Now again, there is some wiggle room moving in and out on the factory fasteners, but that doesn't mean you can kind of relax and just be casual about where you're welding this stuff in. We still want to get it like as it was, as the factory put it together. They had a lot of practice, they made a lot of them, so they kind of knew where to put shit. So I'm going to follow their lead. So yeah, left that undone for now. We've tacked the rest of it so we can get all these clamps off, use them on the other side. So I'm going to quickly do that, going to grind some E-coat off, and yeah, get ready to weld that side in after measuring it. Gotta love measuring. I've been busy, got a little bit more prep work done on this side before we started filming again. Yeah, so it's kind of a rinse and repeat kind of deal. Yeah, got the weld-through primer on all the right places. Got to get this fitting in here. So kind of, we just got to find the right height and spot for that, but I'm just going to guess it at that point there. Just for now. And so same as the other side, we line up these two little oval holes in the top of the core support and the inner fender, so they'll go there. And then we just clamp it at the bottom. Need a bigger one than that. So that's all fitting nice there, and it's a matter of getting, again, this height here. So I mean, I'm kind of spoiled because we've got, like, right now I think there's 6 Mustangs here, so you know, I can run to any one of them and take some measurements, but if you're just cutting all these inner fenders off your Mustang, you're going to have nothing left as a reference point. So before you do, take a bunch of measurements, put some tape on the car, draw a picture, write the measurements down, you know, your measurement here to the rail, you know, here to the rail, this length here, you know, and again, you do it because you know exactly where you're measuring to and from. Like, I'm hooking my tape here and measuring to the corner of this cowl panel. You may want to, you know, do it the other way, but don't kind of take my measurements, you know, because if you don't measure it the same technique as me, then you may not get the right answer. So do your own measurements, make a good record of them, and as I say, like, writing it on the car is a good way to not lose it. You know, there was a time when I'd write it down on a piece of paper or a pad or something like that, and then, you know, something will happen. You know, a week or 2 weeks will go by, and that piece of paper goes missing, and you're royally screwed. So yeah, write it down on the car. Like, there's measurements written down up here on the roof of this car, so that I wouldn't lose them, you know, or couldn't lose them. Because Murphy's Law, if it can go wrong, kind of will. So, let's see how that's looking. Yep, that's hanging a little low. Again, I'm trying to get this bottom edge of this panel parallel with the rail. That seems to put us pretty darn close to where we need to be. My micrometer looks pretty close, but oh, look out, Kev. It's 5/8. Yep, the micrometer's working today, so that's handy. I'll get that clamped there. We'll double check our measurement here. Now I'm not just measuring anywhere along here, I'm measuring at the front of this cutout, because if you do have shock towers you're not going to be able to, and we got too much other junk here in the way, expensive junk, you know, to make a good measurement. So I'm just in front of where the shock tower would go. We're at 18 3/16, so it's maybe a fraction high, but we can come back to that. Well, when I say a fraction, I'm literally a fraction, a 16th of an inch. So yeah, that's not so bad. Now, yeah, this width, just try and get an approximate until we get closer to welding it up. There's a little rectangular hole here for the wiring harness to come through normally. So I'm just going to take a measurement of that, and that's sitting over here just out of camera shot. And that's 5/8 of an inch from the inner fender to this little rectangular slot that's here. And not quite right. It's right about there. So it's all fitting pretty nicely up against the firewall. Let's get a measurement here. It's 18. So I'm just walking away to measure this old Casper back here. It's out of your line of sight. It looks like it's on the money. I'm just going to do a straight edge test. That's an inch and a half. Show you what I'm talking about. Hang with me, guys. Putting a straight edge here on the cowl. Measuring down to there. Yep, that's spot on. Spot on. And of course it's spot on to Casper. So yeah, I think once again we're ready to start burning. And I'm gonna tack it in on kind of all the corners, so we can again lose all the clamps, and then final step will be to get this overall width measurement. Then we can weld it up behind here out of sight, but the flange that's over the back of this, and then the final two parts of the jigsaw puzzle are these little bits that go here, and you can see they're looking like they're fitting pretty darn close. Not perfect, but pretty close. All right, let's do this. Okay, so main part of the apron's welded in. We're not connected to the firewall yet. So I kind of set it at 5/8, and it's stayed there at 5/8. The other side I already adjusted. So now we're looking for a measurement across the aprons here. Again, just ran over to, I would have written all this down previously, but I'm going to say I'm spoilt to have Casper over there just being a little donor for me, like an information donor. So we're looking for 44.5. And we'll get that tape measure in the right place. And 44.5 it is. Maybe just under. Maybe we'll just come out a tiniest bit. Oop, I think that was too much. Probably about an 1/8 out, so we'll fudge a 1/16 of an inch out of each side. Just going to put us right there. And yeah, I'm chasing 1/16 of an inch, and some people may say that's, you know, not worthwhile, but you know, I think it is. We've moved both sides out a 1/16. That's where we want it. And we now have, instead of 41 3/8, we've now got 41.5. So I'm going to pull the trigger on this before it moves, and we'll be getting pretty close. Helmet. Sure I didn't bump it or do something? Right. That's not going anywhere. Obviously I'll do the same on the other side, but for right now I'm going to try and get this into place. I did a little bit of shaping. We need to do a little bit of shaping on the back edge here where this rolls up, but it's just getting it to a happy place, you know. So let's burn that in. Super solid now. Amazing. I mean, we got nowhere near all the welds welded in yet, but that's just amazing how it ties together. So we've got probably, gosh, I don't know, a couple of hundred spot welds to weld, plug welds, and you know, a little bit more tapping, a bit more clamping. We'll get that other side welded in, you know, this little bracket welded in on that side, and the whole front will be tied in. Then I'm going to run around and time permitting, it's getting late. We've got about an hour left, which is going to take a solid hour to do some of these welds. So I'm going to call this video a day, because really you don't need to watch me just doing plug weld after plug weld after plug weld. But hopefully that's given you some info on how to get these things square and in the right shape. Yeah, and this whole girl's really starting to look like a car again, which is nice. You know, it's always nice making those big progress steps, like getting this in was. The one thing I will show you is, hang on. Let's see, which one is it? This one, I think. We got a lot of stuff in the way here. This is the shock tower delete panel. So let's just get rid of all these clamps, multitude of clamps. And you can kind of get an idea of what the finished result's going to be. You do need a lot of clamps if you're going to play this game. That drops down over there. And you have kind of a complete inner fender. You've still got a little bit of gap around here to work with. The beauty of these, some people like to weld these in. I'd like bolting them in. Mainly because it's amazing how once you take that off, you've got, like in the engines here, you've got spark plugs are right there, you know, header bolts, you know, and all sorts of other stuff going on. And that access through here, even when you've got the fender on, you jack it up, take the wheel off, it really does increase your access instead of trying to, remember we're going to have a Coyote in here, so it's wide. So having that access through there is worth whipping out, you know, the 10 bolts that hold that in. So yeah, that's going to look nice. Yeah, I'm going to do some more welding and then head home, have a quiet bourbon Saturday night, and I'll see you on the next video, guys. Take it easy.